The other day I noticed I was all out of cups, so I converted my dusty old printer into a ceramic printing machine and drank my morning coffee out of a 3D printed mug. And then I got a little hungry, so I converted it again and printed out a block of cheese out of chocolate. And then a little later the sweet tooth hit, so I printed a chocolate bar out of cheese. And then I had a stomach ache, but look, the point is I turned my old Ender 3 into something that can print out just about anything. And all it took was a few 3D printed parts, a box full of pretty questionable things, and maybe a little bit of my sanity. Welcome to the third dimension. That's my new catchphrase. I hope it's cool. I think it is, but you know, it's always hard to say goodbye, but my old Ender 3's been sitting over here for too long just collecting dust. I think it's time to get rid of it. Hey, what are you doing with that thing? Oh, me? I'm just throwing out some trash. Are you kidding me? That's still a good printer. It has so much potential. Don't you have a heart? You know what? Maybe you're right. I think my trash can's too small anyway. I don't think it's gonna fit. You know, I always thought you were pretty evil, but maybe you're not so bad. Look, even I draw the line at hurting a 3D printer. And you know, ever since you built that room for me, I feel like I've kind of changed a little bit. And because I've changed, I think I will just tell you that I did break that 3D printer. It was an accident. Also, I got rid of all your cups, all your cheese and all your chocolate. There's probably more stuff I'm just not remembering right now, but yeah, now that I think about it, Evil Matthew's probably pretty accurate, so I'll see you later. Well, evidently I have no cups, no cheese, no chocolate, but I do still have this Ender 3. You know, now that I think about it, I've seen some printers that are out there that can print ceramic and even can print some chocolate, so I think I'm just gonna buy one of those. But after surfing the web for a little bit, I found out that these things are pretty pricey. So there's a ceramic one for $1,300 and a chocolate one for $1,500, and they look like pretty solid projects, but between you and me, I don't have that kind of cheddar. I mean, Evil Matthew just told you I'm out of cheese. And if I'm being really honest, Evil Matthew can be pretty convincing when he wants to be, so I made some pretty bad investment choices. I can't really talk about it too much. Yeah, we'll move on. But actually, I was Googling around a little bit, and I did see some pretty interesting Ender 3 conversions. I think they might just work. They're gonna have to. And not gonna lie, if I go too long without drinking coffee, I get a really bad headache. I'm kind of a caffeine addict at this point, I think. And you know, he said he got rid of all my cups, so what can I drink coffee out of? Oh wait, look at that. There's cups right there. Why can't I just use those? Hey, sorry, it's Editor Matthew. I made an oopsie. For past or present Matthew variants, there's actually no cups. Why would you do that to me, future Matthew? Come on. So I guess it's up to me to figure this out, but I've never known Evil Matthew to lie about doing evil things, so I'm pretty sure this really is broken. It does turn on, so that's a good sign. This thing is blinking red. It's the CR Touch. It's like the auto leveling stuff, so I don't know why it's blinking red. But it is doing a few things at least. You know, me and this printer had some good times. Guess Evil Matthew really did a number on you. Stuff ain't working good in here. Oh, not even gonna lie, printers have gotten so simple these days, I don't even remember how to use this thing that good. Now I just press a few buttons, Wi-Fi enabled. This doesn't even have Wi-Fi. But look, the cool thing about 3D printers is they're really not that complicated. It's really just a few motors and some heat here in the tip. Before I took this Ender 3 apart to turn it into a ceramic printer, I had to give it a proper send-off. I messed around with fixing it for a while until I was finally able to print that last benchy. Yeah, I just had to buy a new CR Touch. The old one I think just got messed up. You know, it's just how it goes sometimes. But 3D printers have come a long way, and it's still nice to remember their origins, and even my own. I bought this printer way back in July of 2023, so it's been about 3 years since my first 3D print, which was this case for this LED board that displays MLB scores and standings. It was a good run, but now it's time for its new life. I think I remember why I stopped using this printer now, actually. I don't know what happened there, but this BQ PLA Go in gray looks pretty good though. And honestly, the quality's not too bad. Up to where it messed up. I don't know what happened. I probably have an old nozzle on there, honestly. And speaking of the BQ filament, they also sent me some Aura Silk, which is really shiny in there. It looks nice. And if you're looking for some filament, BQ, I mean, hey, they make some pretty good filament. I've been using their Cryo Grip plate for a long time. And if you want to check out some of the filaments they got, I got a link in the description. But I don't actually have any idea what I'm doing. I do have this questionable box of parts though, and I mean, it does have this lead screw motor that has a screw in there. I had never seen one of these before, but I guess Pasty was shopping around earlier. I don't really know what all he bought, but maybe he knew what he was doing better than I do. Oh yeah, Pasty was past Matthew. If you're new here, he's kind of invisible. I don't know what's going on anymore. There's too many of us. It's getting ridiculous at this point. Yeah, it looks like we also have some syringes in here, some syringe tips. I can kind of see how this might work. Oh, that was loud. Oh, I see the problem. So I could see a world where, you know, you got something in here besides plastic, and somehow this is pushing it down, and you know it's coming out with these tips. See these tips there? I mean, hey, got some more tips here, some little silicone baking sheets, just this little wooden block, huge box of cable ties. Pass-through really outdid himself this time. 200 zip ties in here. So I think if I want to be successful, I need to somehow figure out how to get this thing onto there, and this will all move around like normal. And oh, hang on, it's playing right there again. I think I might have done it. Are we done here? Oh wait, sorry, yeah, that's me again. You gotta stop doing that. Like, do I need to find a new editor or something? Look, I'm not the first person that wants to change what my Ender 3 can do. There's all kinds of Ender 3 conversion projects, and luckily I found one on this website called Pinshape by Anthony Prey. So I printed out the pieces with this Prusa Mint Ultra Glow Pet G. Ultra Glow is accurate, by the way. Look how bright this glow is, and then I was ready to start doing the conversion. So it looks like the syringe goes in here. Okay, I think basically we're gonna put this onto here somehow, and I don't see any mounting brackets, so I might have to actually model something for that. But I guess I'm just gonna take some of this apart, and we'll figure out where to go from there. Does this look like the face of a guy that's not gonna be able to figure this out? I'm sorry about all the sweat. It's really hot in here. I moved into my garage, and you know, my dad keeps telling me I can have his mini split, but I'm stubborn, all right? So I'm just gonna go wipe my face, and then I'm gonna take this apart. I wiped my face, but it didn't really help a whole lot. Garages can be quite toasty. But anyway, I took the hot end stuff off, and it was just a few screws, so it wasn't so bad. I had the 3D printed parts, but I needed to model a couple things to actually get it on there. It only took me 4 tries to get this adapter plate to attach to the base I had, so I'm pretty proud of that. Also, I needed a nut to go into the lead screw and drive the syringe plunger down. The only thing was that things were going pretty awful and nothing was working. I mean, Anthony didn't give me much to go on, and I can't wrap my head around how his project even worked. You know, normal people would just cut their losses and move on to some other options, so I kept trying to make this pile of junk work. Eventually, I did rub a couple brain cells together and decided to smash together the nut and the slide, and then things started to make sense to me. I did have one more issue though, and that was that Pasti ordered a long lead screw, so I cut that off to the length I needed and got everything together. Before we continue, I've got a big announcement to make. I got a lamp. Matthew's 2026 Garage Improvement Series continues. Got the Astros thing, got the lamp. What else do I need? I talked about painting this black. No one said anything, so I'm probably just gonna do it anyway. But you know, painting is a big undertaking, so I haven't done it yet. Here's the general idea. Here's a syringe. Did I say idea? Sorry about that. The syringe goes on here. This is my Ultra Glow filament. It looks great. This part makes sense. What didn't make sense to me is that this slide was just hanging out in a thin air, and then my lead screw goes in here. These don't touch each other. So none of that ever made sense to me. If I'm just missing something, let me know. What I ended up doing was making one of these. In Anthony's project, he had a lead screw that had a little nut on there, and I didn't have the nut. So I did end up modeling a nut. So I don't know what kind of magic he was doing to connect those two together, but this makes a lot more sense to me. And now what can happen is the lead screw can sit on here, as we all Let me just stop this guy right here. He doesn't actually know what he's talking about, and he's just wasting your time. He just keeps yapping and doing things wrong, but look, here's what happened. I was trying to print threads into my PETG part here, and that's just a terrible idea. I finally got to thinking, and I noticed I had this flange nut on my lead screw, and I thought, hey, why don't I just screw this into it and make things so much easier? This would work, but then I thought, why don't I just get PCBWay to make this part for me, and it'll be so much better, so that's what I did. I uploaded my STL that I created and got it printed out in stainless steel. It's fancy, I'm telling you. I even uploaded this diagram so they could tap the threads into my stainless steel for me, and I actually have a real metal part here. How do they 3D print metal? Can someone explain it to me? Because I really don't get it. Anyway, the process is super easy to go from 3D model to 3D printed part, and they're super quick. You just upload your part, select what material you want, and any other necessary information, and they take care of the rest. The parts usually get there pretty quick, too. In this order, I even got this Prusa nozzle removal tool, and I printed it out in aluminum because I had a PLA one, but it kept melting. Mostly because I'm not patient and never wait for things to cool down. But anyway, if you need some CNC machined parts, 3D printed parts, PCBs, or all kinds kinds of other stuff, PCBWay has you covered, and you can use my referral link in the description if you're interested. I'm just gonna be honest, to this point, I was winging it. And I realize now I can't do that. I did a lot of thinking and a lot of research off screen, and now I think I got things figured out. I'm pretty sure now if I hit print, things are gonna work. This fan is really loud. I'm ready to give this a dry run and hit print and see what it does. Yeah, and I did a lot of work on the G-code side of things, which are the instructions that tell the printer exactly what to do. I basically set up some print profiles for this nozzle that I have and told it how fast it's allowed to go and how much it can expect to extrude, at least for the ceramic that I'm planning on printing. Slicers are pretty cool software, so shout out to the open source community who's pretty much carrying them. I mean, all the modern day slicers we have are built on open source projects, so, you know, a lot of people out there have done a lot of work for free. I found this model of a cup and I sliced it up, and now it's on the SD card of this printer. I had a little snafu earlier where the CR Touch, I was trying to return it. I'm not even gonna lie. I wanted my $30 back, but I didn't have that plugged in, and the printer was like, nope, not gonna happen. So I plugged it back in and got it mounted onto my plate here. I am a little concerned how wobbly this is, but you know, we're gonna wing it. We're gonna see how it goes. Might have to figure out some support there. There's a couple more holes back here that I might be able to use, but if it needs help, I'll do that. Yeah, and it took me like 5 tries in total to get the right height here. I didn't really know what I was doing. Probably should have just measured. But now I think, you know, I can deal with this. So here's what's gonna happen. I'm gonna press the print button and we're gonna hope for the best. We're gonna hope it's gonna go in like a spiral shape, like a cup. There's a video of it printing out ceramic on top of my face right now, isn't there? It's just not my day. Yeah, this is from the future again. I'm sorry. Hey man, it's okay. We've all been there, but let's get it together or we're gonna really have some problems. Yes, sir. Got it. All right, that's better. Now let's try to print this thing out. All right, so it is trying. There we go. CR Touch engaged. Oh man, this might work. I do want to say I still have the hot end plugged in, but in the print profile, I made it so it can't heat up, so we don't have any crazy burning going on over there. I should have just unplugged it all, but I was worried the printer wasn't gonna work if it wasn't plugged in, so that was my solution there. All right, so right now it says bed cooling. What's it doing? It says bed cooling, but it might be printing a cup. I'm gonna have to work on the Z offset here. It's a little too high, but I feel like if I had some concrete in here, it might be working. So I'm saying we're good to go. Let's mix up some concrete or some ceramic. Sure enough, the dry run completed successfully, and this project was finally getting close to an actual result. I got some ceramic mixed up and got it loaded into the syringe. I didn't even make a mess, if you can believe that. In the machine G-code for the profiles I created, when the print starts, I made the extruder pull back a tiny bit to hopefully create some pressure that will keep ceramic from leaking out while everything gets into place. If I'm being honest, I was kind of stalling to get to this point because I really just want it to work. I don't want to know if it's not going to work, you know what I mean? But I finally got the courage to press the print button. Yeah, nothing happened. But that's because I bought plaster mix, which instantly hardened in the syringe. But then I bought the right stuff, which was this air dry clay, and it was actually very difficult to mix up, and I was covered in clay everywhere. But eventually I got it all sorted out and loaded into the syringe, and it still didn't work. I mean, stuff was coming out, but it wasn't going to be a cup. It kind of looked horrible. This was honestly the closest I've ever gotten to just giving up on a project. I'm really just ready to throw in the towel, but we saw those future clips, so if I don't do this, then I'm gonna like rip a hole in the space-time continuum or something, and we just don't want that to happen, so I gotta keep on going. It's just not working how it's supposed to. I don't know what to do at this point. I think I just don't have the flow ratio dialed in or something with the G-code and settings and all that. But I've tried a bunch of stuff, and honestly, I'm a bit frustrated. I looked into how those clay printers work, and they just stuffed in like a big old block of this stuff, the air dry clay, and it works. So I don't know what kind of extruder they're pushing in there, but probably should have thought about it more whenever Anthony said he hasn't tested with anything except crepe batter. I think it's time to try to print out some chocolate. It's gonna be pretty much the same setup, but hopefully it's easier to push through the extruder. I don't even know. And I'm gonna keep thinking about this one, but right now I can't even think of the word clay without just getting angry. You know what I mean? Like clay. Just say the word clay. If you say it enough, you'll be on my side. Like clay. What kind of word is that anyway? I'm gonna go melt some chocolate. Luckily for me, the chocolate was way easier to mix up than the clay. I think I had a lot of air pockets and little chunks that were messing up the extrusion on the clay, so I was hopeful that this was going to actually work. It was also just way less messy, which was nice because I had clay everywhere and it was much easier to make sure there were no air bubbles in the syringe because it all kind of compacted down. I'm not gonna lie, it was a bit drippy, and no, that's not a Lunchley reference, it's just the best way to describe it. So I whipped up another batch of melted chocolate and didn't heat it up so long, so it would flow a bit more like paste. This time around it was still dripping a little bit, but not as much, and it was actually drawing my cheese wedge. Eventually though, it just kind of all melted together. If the temperature was dialed in, it would just melt the chocolate just enough so it would cool down, but we don't have that kind of luxury today. But I mean, it's doing all the right stuff. I might dial down the flow ratio a little bit, or one of those settings. Things are going way better than the clay was, so I mean, I can't complain too much. I mean, it's a lot cheaper than that $1,500 chocolate printer, I can tell you that. And I think if I just wanted to do some 2D art or something like that, you know, this would be perfect. But I don't think 3D is gonna work too good. And I was complaining about my garage earlier, but you know, it's hot in here, but I think that's working in the chocolate's favor. So what can I really complain about? I'm sweating, but my chocolate was working. So I mean, it's a trade-off, you know? It wasn't a perfect result, but you know, it came out. It did melt since I've been in my garage. I forgot it's hot. But I had it in the freezer and I took it out and you know, it was a solid chunk, so I might need to put that back in there actually. But I do want to try one more thing before switching to another material with this paste extruder. So I'm switching to a smaller nozzle here. This is about 0.8 millimeters. And let's see how it goes. I'm gonna get it loaded up. Hope I have enough chocolate. I hope it does what I think it can do, or else what am I even doing here? And I don't know why I said this isn't messy. I mean, it's less messy than the clay, but shoot, it'll make a mess on you real quick. So once I got things dialed in, it was working pretty well. Until I could figure out how to get things to cool fast enough for it to actually build some layers, I think this is the best I got. I tried holding this fan and maybe it worked, I'm not really sure, but after popping this in the freezer for a bit, I had my name in chocolate, so that's pretty cool. The beauty of this setup is that I can easily switch out a syringe full of some other stuff. In this case, I'm going with some good old American spray cheese in a can. I just kept the same flow ratio as the chocolate, but there's probably some mathematical formula that I can compute based on the viscosity of the paste to get the flow ratio dialed in before having to do a bunch of trial and error. What? But on the Matthew Trahan channel, we don't do that kind of brain stuff. Anyway, I got the cheese loaded up, and I bet if I had some kind of vacuum chamber to take out all the air, it would be a bit better. But overall, I was pretty happy with these results. There's my cheesy chocolate bar. I'm stunned how good spray cheese is for this paste extruder. It really shouldn't be that good. And it was even a little too thick for my extruder here. It was kind of skipping. It wasn't really working too well. So I had to water it down, and I can't show you what I saw. I have a strong stomach, and that scarred me for life. I think the flow ratio is a little bit off. There's a couple gaps here and there, but you know, it's pretty close. And I've got my confidence back. You know, the clay took it out of me, but I'm ready to try again, at least. You know, sometimes when you're struggling with a project, you just gotta take a step back, do something different. That's what I've learned over the years, and this was no different. And you know, Evil Matthew, he stole my cheese, he stole my chocolate, he stole my cups. And I bought more cheese and I bought more chocolate. You can't just go buy more cups like that. I mean, I guess you can, but I really want to make the clay work. It'll just be so cool. I'm gonna get back to it. I'm gonna figure it out. I'm not giving up. It's gonna work. At this point, it's been a little while, so I was ready to be hurt again by the clay. I gave it some time to think, and I reviewed some of the old footage and saw that I had a bunch of air bubbles and probably some chunks in the clay that was clogging things up. I also made some more changes to the extrusion settings, kind of a lot of times actually. It took quite a while, and eventually I was getting something close to what I wanted. Look at this old printer go. It's actually doing it. It took a lot of frustration, a lot of trial and error to get to this point. A lot of mess, so many things, but I think that looks pretty good. I tried like 20 different G codes dialing in the settings. It took me like 2 days to realize my extruder was going the wrong direction. It's super difficult to mix up this clay. I wish I knew something better. We know it's not this ceramic plaster mix that I had the first time, because yeah, you saw what happened to that. Getting out the air bubbles out of the syringe, it's just super finicky, but you know, I think this made it all worth it. Look at it go. It's actually doing it. It's actually printing a cup. But honestly, there's gotta be like way better solutions out there. This is not the way to go. Don't do what I did. Don't get me wrong, it was cheap. Save yourself a lot of frustration if you find something else. It's not about that, it's about the journey. And it is pretty versatile. I mean, the chocolate, the cheese spray, this. So even though I'm complaining a lot and I'm definitely never messing with clay ever again in my life, I think we can call this a success. I might have spoken a little bit too soon because this is what my cup ended up looking like. The CR Touch was running into the print and that was really unfortunate. It was working so well too, but I guess that's just how it goes with this kind of stuff. I would say I guess I should just stick to plastic because it's way easier, but I just couldn't let myself give up on this cup. I made a simpler cup that just goes straight up and doesn't angle out. I printed out a new base plate so the CR Touch doesn't run into the print. I adjusted G-code settings for the 472nd time. I hit print for the 97th time, probably other things. Honestly, my brain is fried at this point, and my cup started printing out. You know, it's kind of nice messing with this printer again. It might be old and honestly not that good anymore, but there's still a lot of things it can do. Like printing out my cup.